Hey everyone, welcome to the 515th episode of Just Shoot It, a podcast about filmmaking, screenwriting, and directing. This episode is brought to you by patron Brian Hoff of Hoff Studios. Thanks, Brian. I'm Oren Kaplan.
And I'm Matt Enlow. Today we've got Natasha Kermani on the show. She's a longtime pal of the show. She was on way back when, in like 2020, 2021, something like that. Anyway, she's got a new movie.
She had a movie at South by.
She had a movie at South by, and now she's got a star-studded film called The Dreadful that is out
February 20th.
Oh, nice.
February 20th
Yes.
is the release.
Pretty cool. It's got Sophie Turner, Kit Harington, and Marcia Harden.
Yeah, so if you
Star-studded.
if you want to get Gay and Harden for some Game of Thrones stars, you should check it out. The Dreadful. It's fun. It's scary. It's tense. It's suspenseful. And it was really fun talking to Natasha.
Yeah.
She just recently had a baby in it. I don't know about you, but I enjoy talking to filmmakers that have just had babies.
100%. Yeah, no, it was great. And also, I don't know, we'll see how Kevin kind of edits this one together, but we did it in two parts because of that. Because,
the baby woke up. But there's something fun about like the insanity of successful filmmakers and like how they keep their life together that is interesting. I was in an edit session today and I asked my editor in a super annoying grandparent type way. I think he's in his at least mid 30s, maybe late 30s. I asked him if he had any plans for kids. He's married. And he's like, it's just so busy. I just don't know how you'd even have time for kids. And he's like, in LA, no one that I know in their 30s has kids. And I was like, yeah, you find the time. And that's kind of part of the adventure of being a freelance film industry worker and having kids. It's crazy. And I told him it's amazing for networking.
Yeah, that's true. You do spark, like when you find another parent in the industry, you are like, oh, cool. We relate to each other in that way. And I think that you and I both kind of like, we were happy to talk to Natasha, not only because she's an awesome filmmaker and, a previous guest, but also like that life change is cool because we get it. Do you know what I mean? Like she asked to record a little bit later because of her kid. And we already record very late because we want to get bedtime and, just kind of the differences in schedules and stuff. So through those circumstances, we end up recording this in two parts. So we'll see how things cut together. But Natasha's so smart and funny and, eloquent that I think it will be a relatively seamless scenario for everyone.
Yeah, you tell us. But speaking of seamless scenarios, I do want to bring up something that happened on our last episode, which the completionists amongst you might have noticed that in our unpaid endorsement segment, Matt and I both endorsed something, but our guest, Chuck Kinane, the director of Solo Mio, did not endorse anything. And it's because his audio had dropped out. But he did have a really great endorsement, which of course, I'm not going to remember the name of. Do you? Kylie Popcorn?
Yes, it's a popcorn brand, Ryle's Select Popcorn. I was so excited about it. He was like, hey, I'm going to send you some. So
did you receive yours?
Not yet. Have you received yours?
I received 2 bags. One said Matt, one said Oren, and they were both delicious.
That's not funny. It's not funny.
We did not receive it yet, but I hope we get him soon.
I hope we get him soon too. If not, I'll just have to get him for myself. But yeah, he's a serious popcorn guy, Ryle Select. So shout out to the Kinane brothers for their awesome movie and their great endorsements.
Yeah. And then one final thing, if you want to be as cool as Brian Hoff of Hoff Studios and you want to get mentioned being in the podcast, you want to be a friend of us, you want to support us, go to patreon.com/justshootitpod and throw us $1, $2, $4. I feel like we're getting a lot of these $4 people recently.
Yeah, I like $4 is nice. It's $1 an episode.
Yeah. Helps us keep this going. And yeah, Matt, I keep proposing that we just make AI versions of this. There's enough data to feed the AI engine that it could probably make an episode without us, but Matt insists.
Hi, I'm Oren. I like Trader Joe's snacks.
Yeah, it's pretty good actually.
Yeah, pretty good.
But Matt insists we do it the human way.
The old-fashioned way, sure.
So that's why my kids don't have a father.
That's why we record at like 9 o'clock at night.
Anyhow, okay. Well, it was nice chatting, Matt. Now, let's hop into our interview with Natasha Kermani.
Kudos for hopping on a podcast with a 3-month-old.
Yeah, I can't do it alone. My husband's with her.
When my daughter was born, I recorded like a week after she was born, and I was just like so mad for doing. I was like, why on earth am I recording this episode? I was just fuming.
Yeah.
And Oren was like, well, we didn't take a break when I had a kid. And then we looked back and you definitely had a month off.
Yeah. First
Still
kid.
a month
For my
is not
second
very
kid,
long.
we were recording from the, like between contractions.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
I'm committed to the podcast. This is my real baby.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Sorry, kids.
I love that.
So again, kudos. And also promoting a film is really tricky, right? So like, you know, well done.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, she's my newest project.
Yeah,
The
sure.
Dreadful.
Yeah.
Is
I always
your
tell
daughter's
people,
name
The
a
Dreadful.
horror movie name also?
Yeah, she's Drea DeFull.
Drea.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty good.
I always say that having a kid is like the feature you never wrap, right?
Yeah.
Like would you agree it's about as hard as a feature, but then you just never.
It's so funny you
break.
say that. Yeah, it's so funny you say that because my husband is a DP, so we both work in production, and in a lot of ways, this just felt very in our wheelhouse. Where it's like, okay, we're preparing for something. It comes.
Weird
it's
sleep
chaos,
schedules.
Weird
Yeah,
sleep
you think on your feet.
schedules.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very focused on keeping something alive, keeping the dream alive. So yeah, no, it is funny, but she's been a lot of fun. I mean, I think we're lucky with her, but she's a trip, man. I mean, babies are crazy. They're crazy, and every
Don't
day
worry,
just
it gets easier in like 18 years.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So you're good.
I think it does get easier in like 2.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can make it.
I don't know if I'd say that. I have a 9-year-old and a 4-year-old. My 9-year-old is so easy. That's like, you're like, she'll come home and she'll be like, I'm bored. And you'll be like, go read a book. Go clean up your room. And then that's it.
Yeah.
My 4-year-old is like,
bouncing off the walls.
You just need to entertain them like 24/7. It's just like,
well, I think this little gal is on the edge of, she's rolling around, and so she's about to start, creating chaos and crawling and being mobile. So that we're trying to enjoy that she's like still somewhat warm.
Sure.
At this point, you can still kind of put her down. She won't go too far. She can only roll so far. So yeah, but there's a lot of change coming.
Yeah. Speaking of dreadful things, your movie, I don't think this is a spoiler because it's in the trailer, is about Sophie Turner, who's lost her husband and at war, and she's childless. So she, I think that's thematically like part of the setup of your movie. And I'm curious if that affected you wanting to have a baby too, or
it's interesting.
Great War of Greenland happens.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. No, I think honestly, when that project was coming together, the child was more sort of symbolic, I think, than like a literal, having like a literal desire for a baby. It was more the idea of abundance, right? So that there is this idea of family, there's this idea of home, there's this idea of abundance, right? And that a child is sort of, for her, a part of that equation. So that's really where the baby kind of plays in. But it was interesting as the project sort of developed, and especially as we were showing it to women viewers, women especially really latched onto that, and that idea that she really wanted a child. So that kind of grew and developed on its own. The child was really representative of the main character's sort of feeling of home and family and abundance, and sort of what sort of symbolically a child would mean for her, rather than necessarily like a literal baby that she wanted. But that sort of did develop and change in small ways, especially as women watched cuts of the film and it was sort of like reviewing the project. We realized that it's actually like a very sort of interesting aspect of her, that she kind of has this desire that feels so tactile and so real and so relatable to modern audiences. So we actually ended up really loving that aspect. Yeah.
Oh, so like the literal aspect became more as you went along.
In the beginning, really, it was just, she's living in this really like frugal place where there's no room for anything extra. And so, bringing a child, expanding your family really felt like, wow, you're living in a place of abundance if you're able to do that. Yeah, it's a luxury.
Luxury.
Is still the case.
Yeah, I love that. Sure. Yeah, just wait till you meet people who have 2 kids.
I can't even.
And I'm looking at you, Oren.
I can't even conceive of it.
How?
Yeah. Just, just a cool $6,000 a month on, preschool. No big deal.
Yeah. It's really though.
Yeah, no, LA's not that expensive.
Yeah.
You don't even want to know how much very mediocre drama camp.
Well, I've already decided this baby is not allowed to do anything in that industry. So every day I tell her STEM, baby, STEM.
No entertainment. Well, then you're guaranteed. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Is that what do you think, Matt? Would you discourage your daughter from working in Hollywood?
I don't know. If there were still movies, and by the time she's deciding what she wants to do, then
Yeah.
maybe go for it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Full length
Yeah.
6-minute movies.
Yeah,
I will
talk
say-
about an attention span. Yeah.
I will say I would jump into the dreadful, but I think I've said on the podcast before, but I'm going to say just to you, Natasha, is my wife's manager. My wife's an actor, and some interesting things he said to her when she was starting out was one of the things was he said that the best way to make it in Hollywood is to have parents that work in Hollywood. And he was like, there's not
But
much
just
that
so
you
you
can do
know.
about that at this point. But your kids,
But you can poison your children.
but your kids can have like a huge leg up in this business.
Of
Sure.
course.
You know, if they want to pursue it, because they will. Like our kids are just by definition, like, you know, your kid's mom just directed a movie with freaking Jon Snow. It's like, hasn't he suffered enough?
Yeah, I mean, the truth is all industries are
Um,
changing and evolving, and they're all pose risks, right? Like I'm mostly joking when I say that, because the
Sure.
world will be unrecognizable in 20 years, you know? So I really just say that as a jab to myself and the poor decisions I've made to, you know, find myself here.
Sure. Well, poor decisions. I don't know. Look, you've got like a bunch of bona fide stars in a movie that people are really excited about, and I'm dying to know how the whole thing came together in the first place.
This was a
actually.
long gestation period. So this was, you know, a few of the other projects came together quite quickly and sort of, you know, organically, and this one really took a long time. So I actually wrote the first version of this in early 2017. So the January of 2017, sort of in the aftermath of the election, I was living in New York and started working on this project. And so it's been, you know, almost a decade to come together. You know, it took many shapes and forms. Originally it was written for like France. So it was like a completely different sort of situation. Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, because maybe this is just conjecture, but is it based off of Onibaba, or
I
there's
would
just
say
similarities?
So it's based off the same folktale. So Onibaba is
Okay.
based on it's basically
I
a
see.
morality play. So it's a story about, you know, an older woman, a younger woman, and a third party. And, you know, I was very moved by the film Onibaba. So there's a lot of homage in the movie that you'll see. But really what I was...
And for people, I didn't know this. Somebody said, "Hey, Onibaba on Letterboxd," and I was like, "Oh, that's right. I think I've heard of this movie. It's like a Japanese
It's a masterpiece.
movie from
It's
the 60s.
absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
But it's, I think, a little bit more preoccupied with sexuality and desire and sort of the push and pull between. And there's actually very few samurai in it. There is.
Okay,
There's one samurai, but it's a gorgeous film. And I think what I was really interested in, especially at the time, was sort of this idea of you know, losing the vision of the world that you had in your past as the world is becoming more clear to you, and sort of the stories that we tell each other and the stories that we weave around each other that inform us, right, and inform our relationships. So that was really what I was interested in, and that's where, you know, my script came in from. But the dynamics are, very much a homage to that film.
And so is that, but it's set in kind of like some sort of like gay, like UK period piece, right?
So it's
medieval.
set, it is actually sort of specifically set in the mid 15th century in Cornwall, which is coastal England. It's like sort of it's the Cornish coast, basically, which is like the very, very pointy, tippy point of England. And I actually went to Cornwall when I was screening my first film, Imitation Girl, in a London festival. And I took a trip down to Cornwall. And I met some filmmakers from Falmouth, and they invited us down. And I really just sort of fell in love with the place and sort of the romance of it. You know, King Arthur is allegedly from that part of the world.
Was the film set in Cornwall before you took the trip, or were
No, I was inspired by that trip. So I rewrote the script for Cornwall after I did that trip.
Awesome.
And I went to Tintagel, and, you know, I sort of did all this exploration of place, and it really informed the story in a really, really cool way. So that's where that came from. And I was interested also in that time period because it's the time right before the Golden Age, right? So it's sort of like the last gasp of the true Dark Ages. And so that was sort of interesting to me as well to explore that time.
So you're inspired by Cornwall. It sounds like it becomes like a really, you know, important part of not only the creative genesis, but also just the film in general. Did you feel like you needed to shoot there? And did you? Or would any old English countryside work?
Yes, it was very important to us to shoot in Cornwall. And we did a lot of, so I kind of actually rewrote the script to fit specific places that I had scouted. And we felt like there was something really special in the air. So of course you could go to Ireland, you could go to other places, but we really wanted to try to film there if we could. And we did end up filming there, which was great. So yeah, there was just something sort of special about the coastline, the woods and the mossiness and all that. The sort of the feel of it felt very connected to me, to the story. So I really did want to film there. So I was very grateful that we did end up filming there.
And the movie it starts out in like Old English or something. Like there's literally subtitles to kind of explain
actually Cornish.
the lore.
Yeah, it's actually Cornish language. Yeah. So it is, we worked with a local translator who helped us with the pronunciation and the translation and all that
I
stuff.
assume.
Yes, a Cornish hen. It's a really beautiful language. And unfortunately, it's a dead language. It was sort of done away with in mid 17th century. So it is, there's a handful of people who still speak it, but it's very much an endangered language. So yeah, I would like starting with the Cornish, just to sort of bring us into this fantastical fairyland, world. It sounds a little bit like Elvish or something. So I just really fell in love with the sound of it and to sort of bring us into the story. And then of course we switched to English.
Is that part of your process when you're writing, to kind of do a deep dive into like the world that you want your story to take place in and kind of use that to inform plot, character, and all that stuff?
Yeah, I think always. I mean, I'm a student of history. I'm a literature nerd. I love all that kind of stuff. And I think of so much of it for cinema, right? Cinema ends up being this sort of like patchwork of all of these other things of visual arts, of music, of history, of language, of all these kind of things. So to just pull from your own head feels like you're kind of ditching in a lot of ways the most fun part of the process. So I like to deep dive into all of that kind of stuff. And then, you see what actually ends up being in the movie and in the screen. But I think to deep dive into the world is half the fun.
Yeah. Yeah, but on a practical level, were there ever moments where you're like, did I have to be here? Or was it always worth it? Do you know what I mean? Like I'm imagining that it's a little bit more remote, or gear is a little bit harder, or you're traveling people, any of that stuff, or it was always all just like, this is where the movie
No, I mean,
had
look,
to
it's
be.
England. You're not like in the depths of, some super remote place. You're a few hours away from London. It's very much a hub. So, I think no, I don't think so. I think that there's so much access there that for me, it was really just nice to be there. And I think also Cornwall is sort of a very proud place. So I think to do a Cornish movie in Cornwall was also sort of a cool thing to be able to do. And the locals liked that as well. So.
Sure. Maybe you get a little bit of special treatment, or, like people are... We talk about like the hometown.
The hotel manager
film.
was very excited that we were working with Sophie Turner. She's a big Sophie Turner fan. So.
Of course.
Oh, yeah. Well, I actually wanted to rewind to that a little bit. So you've done so much other stuff, and you worked on VHS and these kind of famous franchises and had a lot of movies at a lot of festivals. Last time your movie was playing at South by. But I feel like this is the first time, just after a quick perusal of your IMDb, where you kind of have these like world famous stars, and obviously Sophie Turner and Kit Harington, but also Marcia Gay Harden, who
Marcia's amazing.
In my brain, she's American, but she seems very not American.
She is American
in your movie.
She is. She actually is. I believe she's from California, actually.
Done that. No thanks, not for me.
Yeah, no. I mean, Sophie.
How did you get them?
Sophie got the movie made. I mean, Sophie was really the reason that we got any steam, and she brought Kit, and then we attached Marcia after.
Right, but how did you? Obviously, our question is, how did you get Sophie?
Yeah, so my agents at UTA loved the project and actually thought of her. They said, "Hey, what about Sophie Turner?" And I just thought it was a really kind of creative idea, especially obviously we all know her from Game of Thrones, being a kid on Game of Thrones. And so I thought that was really cool. So we sent her the script and she responded to it. And I think she was looking, she and Kit both actually had not really gone back to that world, hadn't really gone back to that like War of the Roses era thing. And so I think that was appealing. And
she's like, I haven't held a sword for way too long.
Yeah.
Wait, but so is this in 2017 or is this much more recent?
No, this was well, actually it was the year of the strike. So we sort of put it all together right before the strike. the cast together right before the strike, and then had to stop because there was a strike.
Sure.
And then we picked back up, I think the following, it was like March or something like that. We started sort of doing virtual calls and rehearsals and working on the script and all of that good stuff. But definitely Sophie was she really got the ball rolling.
The linchpin.
When she attached as the lead, obviously. I mean, and she's also just so sort of practical and down to earth that I think that was very much like, okay, cool. We have our lead. We have the centerpiece of the film. Let's find the cast around her and go, So it was once she kind of came on board, it was just a matter of supporting her around that role.
And then, I mean, I guess just to be annoying and dig in, just from a selfish filmmaker point of view. So you're at UTA, you've made these movies, you're at UTA because you've gotten rep through all your work and people know who you are. But someone says, hey, what about Sophie Turner? You don't know her personally, but she's at the same agency as you. Are they like, we're going to send her the script and can you just like write a letter for us to send to her? Or should we send her like some clips from your movies? Or how do you grease the wheels?
So interesting. I don't know that I've ever really had luck with the letter. I don't know if they even read those letters, truthfully. I always write them and I always put my heart and soul into it, but I have no idea.
Length.
Yeah, I really think at the end of the day, it's the script. So I believe we sent it to her British agent, and so it got to her that way. And I think it's really the script at the end of the day. Either they love it or they don't. And then you kind of meet with them and then they decide, okay, this person is not a psychopath. I can work with them. And I don't...
Can you tell us what that meeting was like? Like, how did you pull off not psychopath? Which is kind of hard to do with people that are slightly famous. Did you watch Game of Thrones?
I did watch Game of Thrones. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
No, I was a big Game of Thrones fan. I mean, I don't know, man. I do commercials and stuff. Like they're people. They're just people, their face, so you think you know them, but you don't.
Right.
They're not your friend. This is a person you're meeting for the first time. So I think it's just being respectful and professional, starting from the work. And then once that, groundwork is kind of there and we've discussed the project, then you can kind of loosen up and get to know each other as people. But I think it's just, coming back to the work and sort of giving your perspective on it and opening the conversation to like, okay, well, what is exciting to you about the project, right? Like, obviously, Sophie, this is a world that you spent a lot of time in. What do you feel that was unfinished, or what do you want to do with this? And
it is interesting to like try to appeal. I think we kind of talk around it a little bit on the podcast about like trying to appeal to someone, to give them something that they haven't done before, especially if they're known for something. But then, this is kind of
Marcia was the same thing. Marcia was the same thing because she hadn't really done, obviously Marcia is a legend and she's done so much, but she hadn't really done like a sort of spooky villain.
Yeah, she's so good. She's so scary and she's
just wonderful. Yeah.
Violent.
And so that for her was the same thing, to play that role that she hadn't played before. And even Kit was excited to do like the anti Jon Snow. He was even like, I want to cut my hair. Like the first meeting we had, he had the Jon Snow hair. He was like, I want to cut it off. It's got to be short. It's got to be not look like Jon Snow. And I was like, okay. Fun fact, the character was originally named John.
Oh, boy.
But you changed
it. You're like, we got to fix that.
That was like one of the first things he said. He's like, maybe we don't call him.
Is it The Eternals? There's some other movie I saw that has like a lot of Game of Thrones actors in it.
Oh, was his name John in that? I don't know.
No, but it's Cersei, and I think there's like a few.
Yeah, sure.
Game of Thrones. But I guess, when you're like, hey, let's get all the best British actors. That's pretty high.
Sure.
But you're going to have more than one Game of Thrones cast member.
Yeah, even when
great
we were looking
and
to
famous,
cast,
right?
Right. Yeah. When we were trying to cast the third role, we were like, oh my gosh, we can't have 3 Game of Thrones actors.
Sure.
Yeah, so we wanted to go outside of the Game of Thrones world for that third role.
And so for Marcia Gay Harden, she's doing like a pretty like big accent change from how she normally talks. How do you approach? Is that something she already kind of had in her back pocket, or was that something you're like, hey, we'll hook you up with a dialect coach?
Yeah, they all worked with a dialect coach because they're all doing an accent that is not their normal accent. So we actually created our own accent for the film. We didn't want to do a Cornish accent. It sounds a little bit like maybe like a little bit of a pirate
A little too
accent.
piratey. Sure.
Yeah. So Kit actually had found this guy, Simon Roper, who's a historian and as sort of like a dialect expert. And we reached out to him, and it turns out he's a big Game of Thrones fan. So I'm sure his day was like tripped out when he got like a DM from Kit Harington. But basically he came and he helped us design an accent that for us felt exciting. It had a little bit of Cornish, but it was a little bit of Old English as well, to sort of put us into this place that wasn't just like the everyday English accent, but something that was a little bit unusual and pulled from history. So it's not exactly what they sounded like in the 1400s, but it's pulling from it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
It's a
cool.
fascinating. I feel like you hear those stories of like, if you listen to like what the Shakespearean accent actually sounds like, it doesn't sound authentic to our ear.
No, it sounds
Right?
like German.
Right. Yeah.
It sounds like a
Yeah.
completely different language. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting to have to tune to modern audiences' expectations rather than worrying about, any sort of authenticity, but still finding a little bit of it as well. It's really fascinating.
Yeah. Also, if we wanted it to be 100% accurate, you could do that exact accent. Like you could do it, but then you'd need subtitles. And also our world is a little bit more fairy tale, right? Like we wanted pieces of it, but not like the literal set in that time,
Yeah.
It
I
is
feel like
of
kind
the
of
time, but not exactly it. Yeah.
the texture of the movie is like, there's a lot of flashbacks and kind of dreams, and there's a little bit of like, you're not 100% sure like what's real and what's not real. Right?
Yeah.
Like from scene to scene, like if someone's imagining it, like a little bit of Rosemary's Baby-ish kind of
Yeah. Yeah. Story
undertones
within
of
a
like,
story. Yeah.
yeah, it's cool.
A
And
story within
so you have Sophie Turner on, you attach this cast, and then do you take it to Lionsgate? What's the next step? Then do you just go to like
No,
Mexico and say, call me when it's ready?
Yeah. No, we attached a financier, and then, basically just we're waiting for schedules to align. And we hopped on planes and went to England and shot really fast. So we shot this movie real quick. It was 18-day shoot.
Oh, wow.
Very, very fast. Yeah.
Rock and roll.
Fast and furious. So that's tough, obviously, in the English winter.
Yeah. And also period, or like, it's not like you're just running and gunning French New Wave or whatever. Like every single thing has to, right? Yeah.
I mean, it seemed like the whole house that it takes place
hut
in
was
must have been
built.
custom built. Yeah.
Yep, the hut was built on an open field, and it was winter. So it was a lot of negotiating with the weather and the resources that we had.
I'm really sorry.
That's okay. Totally get
That's
it.
totally fine.
Do not worry. Been there.
Okay, I
I-
apologize. I'm so
I-
sorry.
I know what it feels like.
She's a baby, I promise.
Listen, my kid, we didn't say it, but she had, what do you call it?
Colic.
Where they cried all the
The
time.
colic, yeah.
Colic. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
she's
for
good.
sure.
It's just she gets the nighttime scaries sometimes.
Yeah.
She
yeah.
wants mom.
It's okay.
And we can just pick it up like next time from where we stopped here. It's not.
All
yeah,
right,
for sure.
I apologize. Thank
Don't
you
worry
so
about
much.
it.
Do not.
Don't worry about it.
Zero
Yeah, truly.
worries. We
Yeah.
totally get it. I had a meeting today with some producers, and there is one thing that I brought up that Natasha said
Oh no.
that I thought is actually an interesting tidbit, which is that
Wait,
she
what
said
is
that
it?
letters basically don't ever work
Oh,
Yeah.
because it's one of those like
bursting a
sometimes
bubble.
new filmmakers waste their time doing a lot of things that
laboring
someone
over it.
that made it in Hollywood 20 years ago told them to do.
Sure.
Right.
So you were telling us about how the movie came together by having Sophie on.
Yeah.
You got
Yeah.
Sophie. Basically, she just loved the script. You had the same agent.
Yeah,
got her
so
to read
actually,
it.
well, we didn't have the same agent. Actually, she wasn't even at the same agency. One of my agents who had been a real champion of this project, Houston Costa, I will shout out. There's a lot of negativity around agents, but I will say, in this case, he really did push the project. He kept asking, "What's going on with the Dreadful?" So he had the idea of, "Oh, well, what about Sophie Turner?" Which I thought was a really interesting idea. Obviously post Game of Thrones, and to see her sort of back in that setting could be very interesting. And so he sent it to her UK agent, who got it to her.
Oh, cool.
And then so Sophie and I met, and then the strike happened.
Right?
So
Do you guys who decides where you meet? Is it like does the talent
the
side?
internet. We were on
Yeah,
Zoom.
okay.
She
Okay.
was in Italy or something glamorous.
I kind of like just a regular old Zoom, right? Like, because
Yeah.
to Oren's point, I get a little stressed about where to pick, like if they want to
Sure.
meet in Beverly Hills, I don't have a spot.
Well,
Like,
I have my go-tos. I have my go-tos that are just like
Please share
always
them.
reliable. Yeah. So in Los Feliz, I go to Kismet, which
Uh-huh.
is
Oh,
a
interesting.
great little
Sure.
spot.
Not all
It's
time.
Not all time. All time
Too much of a
pain in
scene.
the ass. It's so sceney. Everyone is looking to
Can I
be
tell you, I
seen.
just took my dad there. He was visiting from out of town, and we sat next to
He wanted to be seen by the town.
sat next to Annette Bening. He's like, "Is that Annette Bening?" And I was like, "Dad, please stop staring at her." Oh shit, that is Annette Bening.
Yeah. He said it very loudly too.
Yeah.
Well, famous people go to Kismet too, but they're just trying to have a good meal. So
I feel like Kismet is so good, but whatever I get there is always kind of goopy. Like I couldn't eat in front of a famous person at Kismet.
well, you have to know what to order.
Yeah,
You definitely have to know what to order there for sure. So yeah, you want to go somewhere that like is quiet, but not so quiet that your conversation's going to be heard. So yeah, anyway, it's a very delicate balance. In this case, Sophie Turner obviously lives in England and is in Europe and a very glamorous lady with her family. So
Does she have like kids?
On Zoom. She does. She has 2 kids. Yeah.
It's so weird because I just think of her as a child.
I know. No, she's a grown ass
We
woman.
can cut this part out, but Oren, she was married to a Jonas brother.
Yeah, this was in the middle of the divorce.
Oh, so
Yeah.
her kids are from the Jonas Brother?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So she
Really?
had 2 kids very young. She was very, very young when she had them. But
Oh, okay.
so she was looking to do something sort of out of the box and interesting, and she was interested. And then the SAG strike happened, and we hit pause, and everything kind of ground to a halt, as you remember. And when we kind of came back to the conversation, we were talking about who else could fit in the cast. And
Wait, can I ask a super annoying question? Just for myself and in terms of putting together a feature of this size. When you have the meeting
Teeny
with
tiny.
Sophie, is there already an offer in play? Like, is there already like something that you've told her, this is her agent, your agent has told her agent, we can pay this much or give this many points, or this is what the budget is?
Yes, I think they go with they go with a very broad idea. So here's the scope, right? Like in our case, this is a very small movie. So she needs to go into this knowing this is not a payday project. This is a passion project. The exact number, no, they figure that out, once the actor is in love with the project. And
Sure. But if they have a sense of scale, they can kind of ballpark what's commensurate with that movie, right?
And honestly, I have always sort of, in a weird, twisted way, appreciated that because it weeds out the actors who are just not interested in not being paid, which, by the way, totally all good. Like, get your bag, but this ain't the one. And so it's like only people who are excited about the material even go to the point of having a meeting with you because they're not making any money on the movie. So in a way, it sort of like gets to the point a little bit faster.
But don't you think there's like if you're an actor, if you're Sophie Turner and someone's like, hey, here's a script. It's great director, great everything. They want to make it for $100,000. Then you're like, well, is there going to be like hair and makeup? Like, is there going to be wardrobe? Like, am I going to be able to get my sleep so that I'm more rested for them? Like, there's probably some minimum budget that you have to support someone like her.
I don't think the agent would even pass it forward if the agent didn't A, know the producers and trust the producers, and B, know that there was at least some bar, right? Okay, it's not going to be $100,000.
Right. And that's also what the SAG scales are for, Oren. It's
exactly.
like, you do like, okay, if you say the word,
budget,
if you say micro budget, like then maybe, it's got to be more of a personal relationship, let's say. Though there's plenty of filmmakers who get actors on micro budgets for sure.
Yeah, and I think a smart actor knows the questions to ask, right? So they're kind of like, they know, okay, so like how many takes are we doing? What's the vibe? And they can look at the script and they can say, yes, there is a world where this is possible if everybody's really on their shit and X, Y, and Z happens. So, but no, they don't go with like an exact number, like a contract ready to go. I think it's just much more of a broad conversation. Again, I'm not like a producer, but that's my understanding.
And we know that you don't have a website. So did she? Had she seen
really
any of your work?
Calling me out.
Sorry, I'm really encouraging.
You don't have a website, but you have made like 4 other movies.
You have a production company. You're rep at UTA. You've been to every festival.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying maybe you're beyond needing a website. But But I guess for me, if I was meeting with Sophie Turner and someone's like, "Well, what should we tell her about you?" Aside from the script you wrote, I'd be like, "Go to my website."
Agencies have little packages like ready to go, basically. So like for each of their clients, they have like 2, 3, 4 pieces of materials, a little bio, a little whatever, and then it's all on the phone. So it's like, because he will call, he picks up the phone and he calls Jane in England and he pitches the project. and then follows up, and then it's probably one film. It would be like one feature film. In this case, it was probably Lucky, my film Lucky. So yeah, it really just, it's all that kind of like ready to go package, and then they tweak it a little bit here, a little bit there. The good agents.
Yeah. Oren, I think that maybe like the website stuff, that's like for commercial directors, right? Because we have to prove that we've done it before, right? Yeah. Whereas like, I think, and we've talked about this on the show, there is a class of director where it kind of looks sweaty to have a website. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
like, you know, like
I think that's changed a little bit, and we like 5 years ago, every super cool director like would make their website be like, here's a picture of me and here's my agent's contact info. That's all you get, you know. But I do think now you'll see a director, you know, a lot of directors that have been on the podcast. Here's like a trailer for my episode that I did, or here's like my.
I actually love that, and you can make it like a little creative project. Yeah, no, believe me, it's on the to-do list for sure.
But you totally answered. Like your agent has a custom package.
They do. Yes, that goes with the delivery. But I will say, I also think it's the script, and I think that at the end of the day, if it's not for money and it's not for clout, it's gonna be the script. So I don't even know if they even are watching the films, right?
It's like, a tiny bit of pushback, though. I think absolutely the script is the thing, but I think you have to have a pedigree, right, in order for the door to even be up in the first place, right? UTA is calling, right?
Sophie Turner has a pile of 100 scripts she can read.
Yeah, so
at least.
So like having a good agent, who's smart and understands the project and can pitch in the right way is important. And then also like, oh, you've made a bunch of awesome, cool movies. And like, I'm not sure of like how many awards they've won, but I'm sure they're leading with whatever the coolest, most prestigious.
Yeah, they say, oh, her last film played at Southwest.
Right, exactly. And then, right. So like that just, I think, frames the conversation. So I don't want people to be like, well, I've got a great script. Why won't Sophie Turner do my movie?
Absolutely.
It's a couple, it's a decade worth of hard work leading up to that.
And the one leads to the next, to the next, right? So like when I go and I am pitching my wares for my next project, right? You bet your ass the agent is going to say, oh, well, she worked with Sophie Turner. So then you should feel comfortable working with her, In fact, that's been a roadblock for me in the past is, as I've gone out for like larger studio projects or something like that, one of the questions is always like, well, can she cast, right? So when they ask that question, can this director cast? What they're really saying is Charlize Theron going to run for the fucking hills when she sees that this person has never worked with a celebrity before? So it is totally that like cart before the horse bullshit that we all deal with all the time, which is like, well, someone's got to give me the chance, right? Like, how do you know if I can do it until you
need to stack these different validation tools, and I think we have to remind ourselves too when we're getting pushback. And you said, agents haven't. Some negative connotation to them. It's because if an agent gets a script from someone they've never heard of, some kid in Michigan emails them something and says, hey, I'd love to talk to your client, Keanu Reeves. Right. But even if your agent, you're at UTA or at CAA or at ICM or whatever, someplace, and you can just write that on the script and send it to an agent, and they're like, oh, this person's repped at CAA. Of course.
Well, they know each other. Right. Sure. So like in this instance, right, like Jane probably knows that Houston has great taste, right? And so it is still a people business where, she says, oh, he knows really good stuff. So I'm going to actually put this one to the front of my deck and whatever it is. And, that actually segues really nicely into Kit coming on board because of course, Kit only read because Sophie sent it to him.
Sure.
Right. So I didn't send it to Kit. Sophie sent it to Kit. And, he read because he trusts and loves Sophie. Right. So that is very much still, I think, how the world works.
Yeah. A total aside, but at this meeting I had today with this producer, he told me he puts every script he gets into Speechify and it turns it into like an audiobook for him.
Yeah, they all do that. Yeah.
Really?
They do it while they're driving.
It is easier at least to get people to...
Have you tried it? It drives me absolutely
bananas. Insane. I used to work in the writer's room and the writers would the scripts were really long and so they would put them into Speechify and listen to them and I had to leave the room.
No,
I was like,
serial killer behavior.
It is psychotic to do this.
Yeah.
But
if you get people, now it means Kit Harington can read 6 scripts, this week.
Sure. At 2.5 speed, read by a robot. Yeah, that's true. living nightmare.
As opposed to read by his inner
well,
monologue.
so I'll bring up, we've talked about it plenty of times, but there's a reason that Jim Cummings will do a radio play of his screenplays so that people can do that, but he gets to put the same sort of intonation and spin onto every single character that he wants to do for that reason, right?
So smart. Yeah,
it's smart. It's smart.
Couple that he's a good actor.
Yeah, sure. And is oftentimes the star of the thing that he's pitching.
I think if I did that, people would be laughing out loud in their cars.
Though you can do it with like a table read of Friends and things like that,
Totally.
Anyway, we digress. But so Kit comes on board, right? And then there's the third piece to the puzzle. Let's talk about Marcia a little bit.
Marcia's such a legend. I mean, her name came up, and she's always scared me a little bit because she reminds me of my mom. So
that's how I feel about Kathy Bates.
Yeah, sure. I loved the idea of Marcia, and obviously she had done a little bit of horror, right? The Mist, she kind of dipped her toe in, but not something like this, where this would just be like a completely out of left field sort of choice for her, which was exciting for me. So we sent her a script and she liked it, and she really drilled me in that first meeting. She was like, she's tough. She's like, it was,
in what ways?
like,
how did she drill you? What
it
questions?
was like being back at NYU or something. It was like, well, what does this mean? What does this mean? I actually changed like 2 or 3 things in the script because she fucking nailed my ass. She was like, that doesn't make sense. And I was like, you know what? You're absolutely right.
You're like,
you got me.
But that's probably the test, right? It's like, hey, if I come as an actor, come and tell my director that I'm not connecting with this line of dialogue because of this action, and my director is listening and not saying just do that line of dialogue, that means we're working together. And
I think what's cool about Marcia as well, though, is that she wasn't coming in and saying this doesn't make sense. She was saying, can you explain to me why you wrote it this way? She has a real curiosity about the work, and she takes it very, very seriously, right? So it's not about vanity for her or, this, that, or the other thing. She really just wants the work to be something that the audience can completely lose themselves in, right? So she doesn't want them to ever sort of like step back and know that they're watching a movie and that they're watching Marcia Harden, right? So that was great fun, and I loved it. And I kind of like ended the call like not knowing if she liked me or liked me or anything.
But I think to Oren's point, maybe like a test is probably too strong of a word, but it is a good way for you two to understand how you work together.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like let's just kind of let the rubber meet the road immediately.
Yeah.
Are we going to click? Is our process close enough that this is going to work or not? Right?
Yeah.
Like just dive in. That's great. I love that.
Well, and she's worked with some of the greatest of all time, right? So she knows what the fuck she's doing, and she wants to know if you are going to also be serious about the work, So she was really, she was the third piece of that puzzle. And then we filled out the cast with Lawrence Foreign, who's an amazing Irish actor and is like actually one of my favorite parts of the movie. He's absolutely fantastic. And then some other actors, including Johnny Howard and some great English actors who came out to join us. And that was it. That was the full cast.
I'm curious when it's kind of a smallish cast of kind of these every character those 3 are in many, many scenes.
Yeah.
Did you design, like when you wrote the script, were you like, hey, I want to kind of make this contained?
Yeah.
You wrote it kind of during COVID too, right?
No, this project has been ever. So
right.
Yeah. So this was actually the project that I had in my back pocket after I did my first feature film. So that was in 2018 when I was kind of taking that around festivals. This was the movie that I wanted to do next. So it just goes to show you don't know what the hell is going to happen. So no, I had it with me for a long time. It was extremely bare bones, and then it got bigger, and then it got smaller again once we had, the actual constraints of budget and time and all of that. So there was a version where, they go to town and you see the market and you see like more of the world. But the core of it was always isolated, because really what I loved was the idea of these 2 women living in isolation, and sort of that imagery of, these women in this very desolate landscape. And so really the scarcity of it was always the main meat and potatoes of the project.
Right. And their codependence is kind of like the main kind of crux of the relationship.
Ain't nobody else out there, so they really only have each other, of course, until Kit comes back into the picture. So it was always very, very bare bones.
That's cool. So the movie, for those that haven't seen it, it's a psychological thriller with some, I would say, supernatural elements, though it's questionable whether they're supernatural or not. And part of the way that you tell the story is through kind of dreams and flashbacks. And obviously that's a device that's common in cinema history, and that especially in like kind of horror and psychological tension and psychological thrillers. Can you talk a little bit about the way you approached it and how you did it and visually? And did you find some of it in post, or was there a plan to get into people's minds?
Yeah. So to me, it was always, less of like necessarily feeling like flashbacks as much as there's different timelines in the movie and there's different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
So, each of the storylines or the threads really is the way to think of them, have their own unique visuals and tone. And, they're almost like different films within the larger film. And so that was always sort of tonally something that we wanted to do. And Julia, my DP, and I did quite a few tests.
Shout out Julia Swain, who was an old
Julia
friend.
Swain.
Matt's worked with multiple times.
Many times. Yeah, she's the best.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Now she's too busy making movies, so I don't get to hire her as much. She's like, sorry, I'm in England right now or wherever,
Yeah, she only speaks Cornish, fun fact. Only speaks dead languages. Yeah, and so Julia and I, we built out our LUTs, and we really made a lot of decisions before we went into the field of how each of those storyline threads would sort of feel unique, and so they all sort of thread together. And I think that's something I'm interested in generally, is that the idea that you're not watching one film, you're sort of watching. With Lucky, it's kind of like the movie changes over the course of the film from Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. With this one, it's sort of like they're all sort of interwoven with each other. But I think
one of the
generally
storylines
it's more interesting.
It's the present day characters as kids, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they're kind of like over like rhyming storylines, or
exactly.
You're filling in context.
You're seeing in their childhood and this sort of like nostalgia of what was before, in contrast to sort of desolation of their adult lives.
It's so funny. Wait, sorry to interrupt, Matt, but we make fun of LUTs a lot, just because there's so many people making their LUT packs.
We make fun of people who are like, get the cinematic look with this incredible LUT pack.
You want your movie to look like The Matrix or John Wick. Get the John Wick LUT. And then you get it and it looks nothing like John Wick.
Yeah, I got bad news for you.
But that use of, when you're making a feature, a TV show, or anything where there's just kind of these different looks that you want to capture, it's kind of this great on-set tool. I don't know why. Have you done that before, Matt? Where you're like, we're going to shoot this scene on set, we'll have this LUT, and we'll monitor in this LUT, and kind of trying to push tone in the same piece in different directions?
Not in the same piece. Certainly for each, when you're dealing with 30-second spots, you're kind of, you are dialing in that singular look. But
even in our past, when we've done like the episodic stuff.
Sure, I would keep a consistent look throughout. But I think to Natasha's point, like I wasn't ever shooting things that were where you were switching between time periods or points of view or anything like that. I'm so fascinated and envious of somebody doing that, because it sounds so cool, and it's like both like formal and theoretical at once. Like you're literally doing something, but also it's kind of like highfalutin. But I always feel like I would do the tacky version of it. Like you remember in Traffic, like everyone was like, wow, boy, this is so cutting edge. And you're like, it's like blue in Washington, D.C. and it's, beige in Mexico. This is way too much. And I feel like I would do the bad version of that. How did you calibrate your taste to make it feel... distinct but not tacky is what I'm asking.
Right. It's because we start big and then we go in. So it's not like we're like, oh, it'd be dope for DC to be blue and California to be gold. This is the overall look of the movie, right? We know we want to go anamorphic. We know we want the tease. We know we want, we're going to use these wacky portrait lenses at some point. Like we figure out the overall language of the film first. And then, and by the way, that includes lighting. So I'm talking a lot about camera and lensing and color, but that includes lighting, right? So like those choices are also part of that macro conversation. And then we start to break down the script and we say, okay, well, this thread is about this. So it should feel more warm, right? We talk in terms of emotion. We talk technically too, because Julia and I speak that language together, but really it's about the feel within the larger macro vision. And so I think because of that, it's not like we're completely changing lanes. It's like, oh no, we're putting down that paintbrush and we're picking up that paintbrush, but it's still part of the same canvas.
Yeah, I love that.
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, I guess I do a lot of times like, okay, we're going to shoot this in the wide with the wide lenses and this and the, and this will be kind of lifted blacks, but kind of just using the LUT on set is like a nice way to, it's like playing the right music for, when you're doing
and we
injecting
work with
tone
an artist.
on set. It's cool.
Yeah.
We work with an artist. We work with a colorist named Alastair Arnold at Photochem. So he is our secret weapon, really. He's done Lucky, Abraham's Boys, this film. So he's a real collaborator. And he's
helping you design those LUTs in advance of the shoot. Yeah.
Like the preview.
So we go, we shoot, we go to Panavision, we get the lenses that we know we want, we shoot test material, and then we bring that material in for a day. We sit with Al and basically tweak until we're happy. And then we slap it on set and pray.
And it's just like, hey guys, this is look 1, this is look 2, this is look 3, and you kind of just,
so our camera teams, our camera teams do have to be pretty on their shit because we can have upwards of 5 or 6 LUTs per film, which is a lot, for a little movie. We're making indies, and so that is actually that is kind of a lot. And so the rules are something that Julia and I share very early on. So we actually make like these little deliverable packages that go to the assistants, it goes to everybody in the team, so that there's no confusion, right? That it's like, this is the look, this is the feel. So then even when she's at checkout, I usually come by for an hour or so and we look and we make sure we preview all of the LUTs, we preview all of the lenses, we make sure everything still makes sense with what we had prepped.
Natasha, I love that so much because it is the perfect merger of the highfalutin ideas with the practicality of this is how you literally pull it off, right? Like, so it's not just theoretical. It's like, no, like let's on not just a technical level, but on a communication level. Like, are you laminating the sheets, or like literally how are you distributing it to people?
We have in the past.
Yeah.
No, with this, it's just people just pull it up on their iPhone.
Yeah,
now,
sure.
But yeah, it is that same idea. And so there's a lighting package, there's a camera package, there's communication there, I think, from as early as possible.
I'm assuming you're shooting all the story, the separate threads at the same time. Like you're doing all the kids at the same time.
Yeah, it's crazy. We had it was 17 days with 1 day, half day of pickups for like some stunts and stuff. So you're just going so fast. I mean, you're looking at, you're shooting, like all the kids, I think we shot in 1 day. So all the stuff with the kids in those different places was 1 day.
Did you do any green screen stuff or anything like that?
No.
Everything 100% on location.
We're on location. Yeah. We're on location. There's like a pickup shot of like someone reaching into a basket of vegetables. That's my hand in California.
Oh yeah. I did think that looked kind of Californian.
Yeah. You're like, wait a minute.
It's very big.
That one shot was golden brown.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I love how we're dunking on Steven Soderbergh too.
I know, leave Steven alone.
Yeah, truly.
Yeah. I know we have to wrap up soon, but I feel like there's still a little more answer left to my question, which is like in terms of just creating these scenes where you want the audience to not exactly know if it's a dream or if it really happened. Like, are there any kind of just craft things that you did aside from?
Yeah, I mean, I think you try to keep the language, the visual language. We're talking a lot about camera, but I think it is really important. If we're using Steadicam to generally whenever we follow Sophie around, right? Like we're Steadicam behind her. Roughly this lens at this distance. This is generally the language we use when we're filming her. Try to use that same rule, but with the little girl, framing the same.
Love it. Yeah.
And so that is a nice way to sort of keep it all in the same world, right? Rather than completely changing your visual language and suddenly now you're on, a dolly or something, So it's, I think trying to keep it somewhat consistent. It's also post. Like so much of it comes together. My editor, I've literally been working with the same editor since we were 19 years old. Gabe DiRioste, he's amazing. And someone asked me the other day, actually, we were talking about like when a movie is finished in the edit. Whoever said movies aren't finished, they're abandoned. I think that's partially true. And I was really like, I don't think it is up to me. I think Gabe turns to me and says, "We're done." You know, like
It's
you
like,
really
I got
lean on
another
your
project
collaborators.
starting.
Yeah.
So-
Listen, I've got a toothpaste commercial
He would
starting on
never.
Monday.
He would never. No. Yeah,
Is
I
there
think
anything
you
you
really lean on your
learned
collaborators.
in post on this movie, like a technique or an editing or like something, some interesting takeaway? Because I do think you talked about the kid kind of parallel story, but there is also this kind of like demon
green world.
character
Yeah.
that you don't
Yeah,
know
there's
if
the
it's real or
demon.
not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah, there's him and
it felt different. It felt like when I was watching the movie, I was like, I don't know if this is real or not. It felt like the camera
Right.
angles were kind of low looking up. It felt
Yeah.
like more cutting.
I will say this movie was truly wild. So this was coming off of doing a movie in California that was like actually the opposite. Like it was a very sort of like chill set in California, you know, with Cali crew and it's, you know,
we're
square
super
aspect
chill over here.
ratio. Yeah, I mean, compared to the madness of the English coast.
Yeah, you gotta drink tea like every hour there.
I can't even get into it. Yeah, and so I think it was actually one of the more wild sets that Julia and I had been on. So if anything, I think there was a little bit more looseness in this movie, which is maybe what you're feeling is that we were, I think, making more decisions on the fly than we normally would.
That's fascinating.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, because we hear a lot from like indie filmmakers, like, oh, sometimes it's easier or just smarter to like codify like the visual language, right? Rather than being totally prescriptive in terms of a shot list, right? Like if you know this is how we shoot our coverage, this is how we shoot dialogue, this is how we shoot this character versus that character, and that becomes a rule book, then when the location falls through or an actor is an hour late or whatever, you can pivot and it all still feels like the same movie.
With that said, I do still believe in having shot lists.
Sure.
I agree with that as far as like boards go, right? Like storyboarding and indie is an act of insanity.
Sure.
You know, there's literally no point because it's all going to be different in 30 minutes. But I do think a flexible shot list is really key. And without it, that's when panic can start to set in. And so to have that shot list there, of course, with flexibility, of course, with mobility, but at least you know you have it in the can, you know, and you have what you need. And we have our transitions, we have our, you know, those 4 or 5 shots that we really need to tell the scene. You don't have to be kind of panicking in the moment as shit is falling apart in front of your face. You know, you can kind of have a path.
Or I think sometimes, like when I personally panic, my coverage just becomes simpler. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, well, if I'm not sure I've got it, then I know that 2 singles and a medium wide, I can absolutely cut the scene, but that's a boring way to shoot a movie, right?
Yeah, and I think Julia is really great about that, where I will say, okay, well, to complete the scene, we need this, and this. And she'll say, okay, I hear you, but what if we did this, and this?
But what if it was good, though? Yeah.
What if it didn't fucking suck, Natasha? Yeah. So I think that's like leaning on your collaborators and letting them come in from your perspective, right? Because we're thinking about, oh shit, I'm going to be sitting at this edit day with Gabe and he's going to look at me like an idiot.
Like,
and
why didn't you get the hand?
Why didn't you get the stuff?
Get the vegetables. Yeah.
I didn't get it. I didn't get the vegetables, but we got it for Gabe. We got it in California.
Right.
I never talk as much about how hard the shoot is as when I'm talking to the editor, you know? And I'm like, we would have had this shot. It was planned, but then
here's the thing: they don't believe you, and they don't care.
Yeah, I know. It's just
I know
for
their
yourself.
perspective is so good. It's just hilarious. Yeah. But I think that this was just an extraordinarily difficult shoot because, like you said, we didn't do any green screen. There was no stage. There was no nothing. We were out in the elements, which was what we wanted to do. Like that was the point. The rawness, the grittiness, the shit of being there was very important to us. But of course, you then have to deal with it. And so I think that was the hardest thing, we weren't even thinking about visual language at that point. So that's why it was so important to sort of figure it out ahead of time so that we kind of could be on autopilot at that point and just run for the...
You could fall back on the set of rules and know it's going to be okay. Yeah.
What's your take on script supervisors? Or do you lean on them a lot? Or are you like, I can take them or leave them?
You know what? They're so annoying, but they're so helpful. And we're talking about being in the room with the editor. Like the number of times my ass has been covered by a script supervisor, at the end of the day. No, they're completely necessary and they can be very, very good at their job. And there's a good way to be a script supervisor where you're not feeling like you're stepping on the process, but being helpful to the process, right?
Yeah.
It does a tough job. Nobody likes it.
It's a tough job. Yeah.
But I have been in a situation where I'm like, look to the script supervisor and I'm like, do you think we have the scene? Like, do you think we have the pieces we need? Because, AD is like trying to push you. We have like 7 more scenes to get. You're like, do we have something we can cut? And then I'm like, this person doesn't know.
Well, a good one does. I really leaned on our script supervisor in England, actually. He himself is a director as well, which I like working with scripties who, sorry, they don't like being called script supervisors who...
Oh, it's a term of endearment in my eyes. So
they don't like it.
They don't like it.
I've worked with craft service people that are like, don't call me crafty.
Don't call you crafty? Oh,
You're
man.
an insane person.
Supervisor.
Yeah.
I like working
name.
with script supervisors who are themselves directors because I really leaned on Edward in this process because it was so crazy and things were constantly moving that, he was actually very involved with rewrites, right? So like I would go home. Another thing people don't talk about is you shoot all day, you go home, you rewrite for the next day because of all the crap that happens during the day. So I really leaned on Edward quite a bit creatively even because I would say to him, hey, does it help me here? Does it emotionally make sense that this character would come into this scene this way? And he would put on his director hat and say, yes, he was pissed off. So it makes sense he's pissed off coming into this scene. So, that's a good script supervisor, right? Like that's someone who's really thinking creatively. And yes, they're there to say, the drink was in the left hand, not the right hand, but the real job that they're doing is what I was just saying of making sure that the creative all makes sense.
Yeah. And by the way, the left hand, right hand thing is it's so frustrating when you can't use a great take because it's just a glaring problem. Yeah. I mean, sometimes, it's not an issue, but sometimes
well, that's also like, VFX is getting real snappy these days. So there is stuff that you can fix. And I do a lot of nasty tricks like that in post. We're even, don't tell nobody, but you can even sometimes split the screen a little bit, get a little more time on that side or, however, whatever, if you need to buy yourself a little bit here, a little bit there. I think
David
I'm not
Fincher.
above. Yeah.
He did that on every single shot in House of Cards.
Yeah, he's got 14 different actors who aren't even in the same scene together. Yeah. So I think I'm fine.
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
I've got one kind of like big, broad question. Did you have anything?
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, yeah. So
no.
Okay. So like I said, I've got kind of a big picture question for you, Natasha, because it's great. We talked to you a few years ago now, like in the middle of the pandemic. And I'm trying to remember, we talked a lot about VHS, right? Like kind of the horror anthology. And obviously Dreadful is a scary movie, we'll say, right? Like, but
it's tense.
It's tense. I guess I'm curious about how you see yourself as a filmmaker and how your brand has evolved since we first met you, right? Because I guess I kind of lump you in with like there was like a squad of like cool horror girls who were all like putting out movies and like you were like a friend group together, right?
Yeah. Are you the one you introduced us to Chelsea Stardust
and like a handful of those people, right? And like maybe
Chelsea, Gigi, Bria.
Yeah, you were like a squad, right? And that's not to say that the Dreadful doesn't fit in with that mentality, but it feels like maybe it's a little bit lase VHS-y and a little bit more art house, right? Was that always the plan?
I really see it as a drama. To me, it's more of a psychological thriller, maybe if you want, but it's a drama.
And like a Rosemary's Baby type of way where
exactly right.
Yeah, totally. So, is that an intentional trajectory? Is that just kind of, I mean, you've been working on this movie for a long time, like you've been saying. So like,
Yeah, I mean, look, there is no plan. So let me just say that.
Sure.
There is no plan. My first film is really not horror. I made a film called Imitation Girl for like a couple bucks in New York. And, we were really adopted by the horror community. And I'm so grateful for that. And it has allowed me to explore horror filmmaking. And I love it so much. And I love the horror community. But I don't think there's ever a world where I make a straight horror film from
Mhm.
start to finish, right? Like it's always going to take a turn, it's always going to go left instead of right, it's going to zig instead of zag. And, that I think is just my restlessness.
Mhm.
It's like I'm always more interested in where a film can turn and become something else. I think like even what my team and I did with VHS within the wrapper of VHS is still not completely straight VHS branded, right? Like it's kind of its own brand within it. So I think that I will always have horror elements. I think there will always be fantasy elements. There will always be genre. But in the end, when I start working on a project, what I'm thinking about is the characters and their relationships with each other, not what is the horror sequence.
Sure. The
what is
kills or whatever. Yeah.
Who's the monster,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. I love that stuff. I think that stuff is vital, but that's not where it begins. And it's not where it...
And listener, there are kills in this movie.
Yeah. Don't worry. There's still blood and guts.
There's no punches being pulled, but that's really fascinating. Yeah.
But it's a question of where the origin is coming from, right? Like what gets you pumped up when you sit down at your computer and you open up Final Draft? It's like, and for me, it's figuring out how these characters are navigating around each other. And so that is the one consistent thing that you'll always see.
Cool.
Love it. Awesome.
Do we know what your next movie is?
I'm working on it. It's another sort of sad movie about people dealing with their issues.
And is it clear like which movie it's going to be? Like, it's not like you have like 3 or 4 movies and you're waiting for one to go.
There's a few properties I'm chasing. So I really enjoyed doing an adaptation with Joe Hill's story, and I'd love to do another adaptation, whether with Joe or with another material. And so I'm always sort of looking for material to adapt. But in terms of my own originated scripts, yes, it's usually just one at a time that sort of I'm focused on.
Awesome.
Discipline. That's great. I love it.
Cool. Well, we warned you about this next question in an email today, but we were wondering if, from your experience on this movie, it could be just your whole career also, but do you have any hot takeaways?
What's the big lesson? The exciting take from your film?
And it doesn't have to be the big lesson. It could just be
Sure.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, you said the thing about the letters, which I feel like is a little bit of a pessimistic hot take.
I love pessimistic hot takes personally. The thing, we can talk about that, or we can just do something else.
Yeah, I mean, I had just said, don't put too much emphasis on the letter sending element of when you're going to cast. They say like make a little letter from the director. I don't even know if those things even end up getting attached in the end. I think the agents just go straight to the script. So really, like, you have to sort of move forward assuming that they don't see anything except the script document. So that really has to be with what you are comfortable with going out, that's what they're seeing and that's what they're going to be excited about or not excited about. They're probably not going to give a shit about your letter and where you're from and all the hours you
saw
put
their
into
movie
screaming.
and it changed your life.
Yeah,
but it's probably worth mentioning, like, by the way, Natasha went to your high school.
Sure. Yeah. We're from the same hometown.
An interesting tidbit that you can mention in half a
Marcia
sentence.
Harden, you remind me of my mom. No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that, but that is part of why she's terrifying for sure. No, I guess I would say it's more just something I've learned I've been now making movies for too long. And I think that starting out, there was this idea of, move fast, get shit made, make decisions quickly, don't show vulnerability, don't, hesitate on set. And I think,
shoot it. Yeah.
Just shoot it. Just shoot it. That's good. No, I think I'm coming to warm up a little bit more to the flip side of that, which is, it is okay actually as a director, if someone asks you a question, it's okay to not know the answer to that question.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's okay to say, let me get back to you on that. You don't have to be this kind of like ironclad, know-it-all, spring forth from the womb, ready to go with all of the answers. So I think that is something I'm trying to practice for myself, but to allow a little bit more softness and vulnerability and humanity, right? Because we're in a world now where people can sit in front of their computer for 10 minutes and have exactly what they want. And that's not fun. The fun is the vulnerability. It is the human connection and the conversation and the not knowing and the figuring it out. So I think let's not like that messiness, because it's what's going to make our work special.
I love that. I love in a pitch saying, I read your script. I loved it. This was my plan, was to do this and this and this. And then I was talking to my kid and he said this and it made me realize the whole thing was totally different,
Right.
and I should go this other direction. And I love sharing that because, hopefully the person I'm pitching against is pitching like the first thing that comes to mind, and I'm showing them that I'm pitching the second.
Oh
thing.
man, we could do a whole nother podcast on pitching because that's
Sure.
a whole nother.
Or about 10
excited.
years worth of, yeah.
Yeah.
I do think, not to be the constant contrarian, but I do think it's easier to be a director that says, I'm not familiar with that technology, or I don't know, or that's a great question. I haven't thought of that. When you have
That's good. You're more involved.
when you have 8 movies under your belt,
Sure.
then when you cajoled like 7 people to help you make your short film.
Sure.
By telling
Yeah.
them, one of my first jobs in LA, I got it off Craigslist, and it was an Emmy Award winning. Come work with an Emmy Award winning director on this short film, and I was like, ooh, amazing, Emmy Award. And I went to set and I met the person. I was like, cool. So what did you direct that you won an Emmy for? And he's like, oh, I didn't direct anything that I won an Emmy for. I was like, it said you're Emmy Award winning. He's like, oh yeah, I was in the sound editing department.
Yeah.
So we got an Emmy.
I won an Emmy and I'm directing.
And I'm a director. Yeah,
Hey, that's
exactly.
marketing, baby. It's Hollywood.
But I think, it is, I do think like someone like a Ryan Coogler, you hear him talk about, he just sounds so insanely honest, and authentic when he talks. And I think that's like his superpower. But I could imagine him on his first movie on Fruitvale Station saying, you know what, I haven't thought of that. Like, let's figure it out. And that's something that it maybe takes us like 20 years in the business to get to.
Yeah. Well, I think there's also like, if you haven't thought about anything, then every time you answer that,
There's
it becomes
also
a
being
problem.
unprepared. I'm not saying
Yeah.
don't come unprepared to your set.
Right.
But I think it's, especially I think like as a woman director, honestly, people are you come into it feeling like, oh, if I show 1 ounce of vulnerability or 1 ounce of waviness, doubt, they're going to eat me alive, right? And true confidence is being able to say, you know what? I don't know. Let me think about it for half an hour and I'll get back to you.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because I kind of see, a director, like your job is to be a decision maker, but sometimes that decision needs to be to consider the options a little bit
to
more.
measure the weight of the decision, right? Because I think the flip side is, okay, go green instead of yellow. Okay, now you have to live with the consequences of being green the whole time when you should have fucking taken a half an hour and known that yellow was the right answer.
And that's the experience of it all too, is like, what decisions you need to take your time on and which ones are less consequential to you, right? Sometimes green versus yellow, it doesn't matter and you never think about it again. And
I also like to say, what do you think? We had an incredible armorer on this film, Rich, who was a leather worker and an armorer. And, this dude has spent way more time with guns and armor and this and that. So when he would come to me with a question, I would say, well, what do you think, Rich? Like, you're the one who knows all this stuff about 15th century metalwork.
Yeah. Or even like if you frame it with like, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I'm going for. This is the criteria that would make this good or bad.
Here's the feeling that we're going for.
Yeah. Like, is this the authentic weapon that they would use is a different question than like, is this going to be really loud or would this be lethal or whatever? I don't know enough about guns. But, you see what I'm saying? Like if you frame the context of like what you're looking for, they can guide you for sure. And they relish it, right? Like this guy spent his whole life caring about, learning how to tan leather and, sharpen steel and stuff. And so like,
it's also trust. I mean, they're going into the field of battle with you. And so it's things, like I remember we had a night where we got completely rained out. So the scene with Kit and Seamus Lawrence, the green scene where he sort of fights the knight and kills the knight. That was supposed to be at night in the rain. It was like a completely different scenario and it was just unsafe. It was totally unsafe. And, we got to set and it was just not working. And we just called it and we said, okay, we only have 18 days, but this one's over, And I think that's when the decision making, everybody says, okay, good, we're wrapping it up. It's a safety issue, and then when you go and you do show that softness and that vulnerability, they know that it's okay. This is a real sincere question and this is a collaboration built on trust. So it's wavering between those.
Yeah.
Those
I do wonder when you hear the stories about like Kubrick, demanding to see like 80 different cabs until he finds the right yellow, cab and then custom making the paint. Like, is that him just flexing, hey, I'm the ultimate decision maker here and what I want goes? Or is there value? Or is he making a better movie because of this
I
yellow?
think the answer is yes to both of those questions. And part of the joy of watching his masterpieces is that he's flexing on every single frame.
Sure.
And that's what you're paying to see.
I think the economics were different back then, right? Like he's not asking for, 80 swatches of yellow on his first film. Right. Though I'm sure he would have liked to.
He probably did.
But you have to have the money to pay the guy to go do it. And they might be annoyed to go shopping for all of that stuff, but they're being compensated. And it's okay to compensate a person to go do that work because the movies, people show up in the theaters to see that. You watch 2001 80 times, right? Maybe you're on acid, maybe not. But, like people are there, right? So
I don't know that the industry is set up for him
Another
anymore.
Kubrick.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think he was one and done situation. He was at the right time at the right place.
Yeah,
and
even though
I don't
Michael
think the
Bay had a
industry
little bit
tolerates
of that stuff, right? Like I think
but Michael Bay still had to make his day. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
I think Michael Bay still had to answer to someone. Kubrick answered to God, and that was it. You know what I mean? Like that was it. He was king. That was it. And I don't know that our industry will tolerate that anymore. I don't know that audiences will tolerate that anymore, because they're not paying enough money to justify the cost of it. There's not enough liquid cash in the industry anymore to tolerate that behavior, for better or for worse. Like who knows what masterpieces we're not getting,
Sure.
because everybody has to
shoot a movie in
straighten
18
up and
days.
fly right. Yeah.
It's interesting. When I moved to LA and I used to be an engineer, so I came here and I knew very little about film. Like I didn't have Matt has like very educated film background from school, and I had never I'd just heard about Casablanca, But I watched a documentary about Stanley Kubrick. I don't remember anything from it other than this one scene where he had asked the DPs, let's put on a 25 millimeter lens on the dolly and have it, go do this 30-foot move. And he went and talked to actors or whatever, and he came back to set and he saw that the track was 5 feet farther away from where he said, and he's like, hey, why is the dolly over here? And I wanted it on the 25 over here, closer to the actors. And the DP was like, oh, there was a kind of a bump in the path there, and there's a column that was kind of hard to work around. So we just moved the track back, but don't worry, we're just going to shoot it on the 50. It'll look exactly the same. And supposedly Kubrick instantly fired him, immediately fired him.
He's gone. I said what I said.
Yeah.
Did I
you
stutter?
think a 50, 20 feet away is going to look the same as a 25 from 10 feet away?
Yeah, that dude did not know what he was
Yeah.
in
And
for.
I always thought, that's kind of cool. I wouldn't fire you, but I've had so many times where very different from you, Natasha. It sounds like you work with the same team every time, but where I'm like, yeah, you just made 4 decisions that just seem crazy to me that I don't think I'm going to hire you again. And in commercials, it's a one-day shoot, so it's easy to do that.
Yeah, I think with a project like this, you kind of need the mind melds with your team for sure. It's the only way to survive.
Yeah, I love that. I love that too, and I love that you found your people that are making you
very
better.
Grateful.
Yeah, well, awesome.
Well, before we get to endorsements, Natasha, where can people keep track of you? How can they keep track of all of the awesome stuff you're working on?
Yeah, so I do have an Instagram, believe it or not, and I do use it to post about premieres and releases and trailers and all that kind of stuff. So it's an easy way to sort of keep track of what's coming up. It's at Natakerm, so it's the first 4 letters of both my names. You can also follow my production company at Ilium Pictures, and the film comes out on February 20th. So keep an eye out.
And where can people watch it?
So you can go to Fandango to see if it's playing at a theater near you, and it'll be out on VOD as well. So you can also rent it, stream it, whatever you want to do with it.
Love it. Awesome.
Amazing.
Well, do you have a few more minutes to endorse with us?
I do.
Unpaid endorsements.
My unpaid endorsement, get ready for this one, guys, is these copper Italian paper clips.
Copper?
They are.
I know that copper is very expensive right now. That's why
or maybe they're
stealing
brass.
the wires
Hold on, let me
from.
see here.
our
Yeah. No,
streetlights.
they're. I don't know. The box
Yeah,
is in
use that
Italian.
copper.
Yeah. No, I said copper, but maybe they're heavy
Brass?
and they're kind of maybe they're brass.
Do you find yourself clipping a lot of papers these days?
I do.
Matt?
I do.
He's added it to his, what do you call the things in the script? The Brads?
Yeah. No, look.
Oh, that is beautiful.
It's a beautiful heavyweight.
I see
It's
it.
extra large.
I
It
see it.
feels real. So it feels important. So
Mhm.
Natasha, you were right. I'm not paper clipping a ton of stuff for sure, But like when you want to like give something a little bit extra importance and like
little zhuzh.
little zhuzh, these they're Leone Del Era paper clips. I don't know. It's all
Leone.
like literally the box is entirely in Italian. So
Excellent.
I
love
mean,
yeah,
I
they're
don't. I don't trust American paper clips. Who knows what they put in those things?
This
I
is-
only get my paper clips.
But
in Italy.
they-
straight from Italy.
I guess what I'm getting at is like there's like a class of like paper materials and like writing utensils that like just
Mhm.
feel like they've got like an extra level of craftsmanship.
I do like that stuff. Yeah.
and it's like it's an indulgence for sure.
Yeah.
But like it makes me happy. It's fun.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
stationery
Mhm.
shops are lovely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They're much better than those shops that move around all the time.
So
ha, ha.
Italian paper clips, guys. The Leone brand is my favorite. Number 7 of the big
I will
ones.
tell you that's a
Yeah.
better endorsement than whole milk. But
Well, great. That's wonderful to hear. Natasha, what you got?
You know what I want to endorse actually? So, as you know very well now, I have almost 4-month-old kids. So, I have not been really consuming
Mhm.
movies or anything. I'm very out of the loop. But what I have been doing actually every morning is turning on KUSC, California Classical Radio. And I have completely rediscovered the pleasure of listening to the radio with a host who
What's the
curates
station?
music. It's KUSC.
Or what's the number?
I don't know. It's a KUSC streaming.
I think it's
app.
pretty low on the dial, right? It used to
Oh,
be, or is it high? It's on
91.
one end.
I think it's
Yeah.
99.7?
91.5. I think it's
Oh,
91.5.
91.5, yes. Classical
91.5
California.
KUSC
Yeah.
Classical
That is low.
California. And it's just,
Low.
it's just been really lovely hearing like a human voice in the morning, sort of,
Mhm.
Like talking to an
and
adult.
here's Chopin. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
It's
so that's
very,
been nice.
it's very like, if you can imagine a classical radio DJ voice, that's exactly
Mhm.
what they're giving you.
Like the
you can,
SNL
Yeah.
parody.
you can hear the leather arm patches on their elbows.
love it.
Right?
I love it.
Yeah, it's
I
great.
love it. It's
Yeah.
great. They do on Sundays, they do a live stream from the Met, the
Mhm.
matinee at the Met. And, you can hear the audience wrestling and stuff.
Mhm,
So, yeah,
mhm.
it's just very tactile. And yeah, there's a human being behind the microphone, which is really a lovely way to start your day.
And
That's
no
pretty
control,
good.
right? It's just like, they're just playing what they're playing. I can't skip.
Yeah.
I can't jump around. That's great. I love
Mhm.
that.
Yeah,
That's
that
a
was
good
great.
one. Yeah,
91.5. I'll add it to my car.
love it.
Yeah,
Pro
do it. Put it
memory.
on that speed dial.
Yeah,
What you
admit
got?
that I did endorse listening to music once, but it had more context to that. But that was on par with
Just
Matt's
music in general.
endorsement.
You guys heard about music? It's pretty good.
I was like,
Pretty
hey, did you
cool.
know you don't have to listen to podcasts?
To be fair,
24/7?
you'd stopped listening to music in your adulthood, and then you started listening to it again.
Well, I
No,
love
I'm teasing.
podcasts,
I'm teasing.
so
Yeah.
So I was listening to whenever I'd walk around or do something, I'd listen to podcasts, and I
Right.
never had an original idea.
Right.
'Cause I
Sometimes
was-
it's nice to let your brain rest a little
Yes.
bit. Yeah.
Okay, what I got, Matt, tell me if I've done this before because I have a backup. Have I talked about like how I use iCloud photos during shoots with a DIT
Yes, I think so, actually.
as an
Because I
endorsement?
work with a DP who will do it as well. You mean like they'll upload stills and then you share them with their client?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you.
I'm pretty sure we've talked about it.
Uh-oh.
But it's been years ago.
The reason I brought it up, I thought about it is because we talked about the script supervisor, and if you can get it, it's hard. We work with a lot of. We rarely hire the DIT,
Sure.
and DITs they can be amazing.
I did today, actually.
Oh, cool!
Yeah. For the first time in
Like
maybe
somebody you've
ever.
worked with
Yeah.
before.
Yeah. Yeah.
They can be amazing, or they can be like the most annoyed person on set. You're like, hey, did you download the footage? Like, no, I'm back. They just brought me the card like 2 minutes ago, and they just made me move my whole station over here.
They are
Like,
great.
sorry,
They're
grumpy,
generally
sorry.
very
Grumpy.
grumpy.
But they're paid well. They don't have to do a ton. And also
Yeah.
they're getting a nice kit fee for their supercomputer that
Yeah,
they
they have
loved
like the
to build.
sweetest gig
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
everyone on
And
set.
they're in an air-conditioned tent or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know.
get over yourselves.
Come on,
DIT.
come on.
Come on.
But
Yeah.
so my favorite type of DIT, and DITs, listen up, call all the production companies I work with if you want a job with me, is the one where, well, first of all, you need a camera team that is downloading a fair amount, not like just at lunch and just at the end of the day, but like every time we change setups, let's change memory cards. And the DIT, hopefully with the DP, has set some sort of look, and they are pulling stills, and even giving them a little zhuzhing in the Da Vinci or whatever they're using. And they are making great JPEGs, and this is the next step, which I talked to a lot of DITs. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to put it on a Dropbox or like a Google Drive. And I'm like, no, please put it in an iCloud photo album, because we basically all have iPhones. Sorry, Android people. And by the way, I've been working with this producer a lot that has an Android phone, and it's just like it's a real issue. But he, the DIT makes an iCloud photo album. I subscribe to it. The DP subscribes to it. And I put all the client, the agencies, anyone that wants, I try to get him to like invite all of them. And I say him because I don't think I've worked with a female DIT in like the last 5 years, but I'm sure they exist. But then as you're shooting, you have just all the shots filling up in your phone. And so what's amazing is when you're coming back to a shot of a desk that had all these things on it and you're trying to remember where, you can just see, did we see the desk in the shot?
Yeah.
Where was things? Because sometimes, the scriptie's like so obsessed with where everything was, and you're like, it's not even in the frame.
Yeah, and you're like fucking around with Frame IO on the phone, and it sucks. And
why can't a Vimeo video, why can't you just scrub it on your phone? Why is it taking 8 hours to do that?
I thought the reason that you were advocating for this is that when we wrap and the client or agency is off and they're checking in with their bosses or whatever, and people are like, "Oh, how'd it go?"
They can be check out these freaking awesome
look
stills.
How awesome these stills are.
Right.
That's the move that
I've had people make materials off those stills that they got on set. Like they cut out the actor,
like
and
in
they
the
put them
moment.
on a background in Photoshop, and they're like, "Yeah, we already." It's just cool, and it's kind of collaborative, and it's beautiful. Like I look at my albums, sometimes they're better than the work ended up. Just the stills,
That's a good point, though, about it just populating your phone, because everybody has iCloud.
Yeah, because if it's like go to Dropbox, go to G Drive, whatever.
No.
But as a continuity tool, it's also great if you have a camera team and a DIT. Because a lot of times I'm like, hey, it's lunch. Remember we had that conversation in the morning? And they're like, yeah, I haven't put it on the iCloud yet. And you're like, well, then you're of no use to me because I want it during the day.
Get out. Yeah. Nice.
That's my unpaid endorsement is get a DIT that doesn't hate you.
And iCloud.
That's right.
Got it.
That's right.
Tools of the trade.
And KUSC Cusk.
That's right. Someone will be like, wow, some nice paperclip. Anyway, Natasha, this has been great. If you have questions for her or for us, you can email us at justshootitpod@gmail.com or hit us up on DM at justshootitpod on Instagram. If you're not following us on Instagram, I highly recommend it because it's a nice little reminder of shows coming out and you get like the little tidbits.
If you don't listen to every episode, you get the best parts on Instagram.
Yeah, maybe not all of the best parts, but like some good reminders. So yeah, check us out on Instagram. And you can follow me at Mr. Matt and Lo across all social media, including Letterboxd.
And I'm at O Kaplan. This episode was edited by Kevin O. Yang. Thanks, Kevin. Our social media is done by Lily Bouvier. Thanks, Lily. And the show is produced by Tyler Small. Thanks, Tyler. And you're listening to music from the Free Music Archive and Artist Jazar. And we will catch you all next time. Thanks very much.
Thanks. Goodbye.
Thanks, guys.